Star Talk, a podcast from the Durham County Sheriff's Office. I'm Public Information Officer Anne Marie Breen, and today we're going to do something a little bit different and talk about a cold case that the Durham County Sheriff's Office has been investigating for 21 years. On Monday, November 7th of 2005, the peace of Rougemont, North Carolina, a community of just under 1,000 people, was shattered when 68-year-old Ms. Rosa Lee Crabtree was found murdered in her home. The initial investigation revealed that Rosa had returned home from church Sunday night and appeared to be getting ready for bed when someone entered her home and carried out the brutal crime. Her son, who stopped by every morning, found her that Monday morning and called for assistance. Items like jewelry and electronics taken from the home indicate someone had come to rob Miss Rosa Lee, as she was known in the community. Now, 21 years later, her family and those in the community that knew and loved her are still trying to make sense of what happened. Today, we'll talk to Ms. Rosa's niece, Tanya, the current detective assigned to her case, Detective Lindsay Hamlet, and the Criminal Investigation Division Lieutenant, Tisha Jones. Ladies, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Anne Marie Breen, and I'm the Public Information Officer here at the Durham County Sheriff's Office to facilitate the conversation about this cold case. So let's start by going back over some of the history. So, Detective Hamlet, tell our listeners what you can about what happened on the morning of November 7th.
Okay, so as stated in the intro, Miss Rosa was found in her home, deceased. There appeared to be miscellaneous items that were out of place inside her home and also around her home as well. There were some items in the house that appeared to be in some sort of disarray, possibly from a struggle with whoever was the perpetrator of this crime. What we know is that the last time that she was actually seen in person was at church the night before. There were multiple people who stated that they had talked to her over the course of the night over telephone, but actually seen in person was there at church.
That was Sunday night, and then Monday morning, her son showed up for his morning visit with his mama. And what happened when he arrived?
So he arrived and entered the home as he usually does and found his mother deceased inside the home.
And can you share any information about how the murder took place?
Due to it being a cold case, we don't want to share too much about exactly what happened or certain tools or weapons that may have been used. But what we can say is it was very brutal in nature. And we're not sure if it was a crime of opportunity or if it was something that had been pre-planned before it occurred.
Okay, let's talk about the initial investigation that occurred 21 years ago. Some information was put out at the time, kind of about what happened, or limited information. And what did those investigators 21 years ago have to say about what happened to Ms. Rosa Lee?
So there was definitely a lot of footwork that was put into this case. A wide variety of detectives and different people in command position worked on this case. From what we can see and the information that we have reviewed in looking through the case files, for over 3 years, it was very steadily worked. There were a lot of leads that came in during this time. There were numerous interviews that occurred with potential suspects, with potential witnesses, with family members, friends. Anytime new information was brought forward, it was followed to the very end. Some of the things are things that we're still looking into now that weren't taken all the way to completion, I guess we would say, and things that we can still work. There were a lot of pieces of evidence that were collected during the initial stages of the crime. Many of these pieces sent to labs over 20 years ago. And
some things were sent off to the lab at the time, but were there limitations to what they could to what a crime lab could test 21 years ago? What kind of limitations did they have then that maybe we don't have today, Lieutenant?
Technology then obviously was not the same as it is now, so some of these items that are still in evidence, we were able to go back and look at and salvage and resubmit, which is what our hopes are now, using new technology that we can pinpoint an exact suspect or a different lead for a new path for us to travel down.
So things were just less sensitive, that they weren't able to pick up as much evidence in the past than they can today?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's really, and obviously, we hear about these things all the time where, when the technology just has increased by leaps and bounds over, 10 or 20 years, that, things that we just couldn't even dream of back at that time, now we're able to do that. So hopefully we'll be able to get some new tips through that information. So now let's hear a little bit about Ms. Rosa Lee. Tanya, her niece, is here. And, Tanya reached out to the Durham County Sheriff's Office about a year ago, just kind of inquiring to see where her aunt's case was. And that kind of led to us going back over all of that evidence that Detective Hamlet and Lieutenant Jones just talked about. So, Tanya, thanks so much for coming in and being here. And we would really love to hear just about your aunt. So, what can you tell us about Ms. Rosa Lee and who she was?
First off, I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for looking into this and getting it to the lab. I'm really hoping something happens with that and we can get closure more so as a family. A few things about her. She was not even 100 pounds soaking wet, but and her daughter said, why didn't they just stick her in a closet and shut the door? She was a simple lady. She loved her family. She loved church, friends. She loved thrift shopping. Yard sales, a good deal. She's always up early going to the yard sales. There is in Hillsborough, it was the OCM thrift store. She used to go to love to go there on Tuesdays, Senior Citizen Day. She loved to go to Martinsville, Danville, South Boston, everything up that way. And following the death of her husband, Stoney, which was about a year prior, she was just learning how to live again. She spent the previous year caring for him until he passed. And after his death, she filled her days with cooking, baking, visiting elderly friends. She had a caring nature, and she loved to do for people. She's carefree, but she loved to see people smile. She loved kids. Her neighbors say she would knock on her door at any time just to drop off a pie or a sweet treat. And she was a good cook. She loved gardening. She would prune and plant from sun up to sundown if her body would allow it. Her granddaughter says that she taught her how to maintain a vegetable garden. They were the ones that showed her how to snap beans, shuck corn, shell peas. She loved to pick up and make small bouquets of flowers. She loved flowers. She came over to my mom's house when they had built a house and planted a whole lot of flowers.
So this was your dad's sister, right?
Yes.
So what kind of a relationship did your dad and your Aunt Rosa Lee have?
They were close. There were 5 siblings total. Those two may have lived closer to each other earlier years and on. He actually called her that night after he got home because he was at a funeral home. That man loved a funeral home. And because she had called and left a message. So they talked. Like, they talked regularly, daily basis. If not daily basis, every couple days. Her favorite activities were trips. She loved taking trips. She loved going to the mountains. She would take day trips at the mountains, her and Stoney, and they would go up real early in the morning and come back late at night. And I don't know how she had all that energy. I don't even have that energy. She loved going with the Golden Seniors. That was senior citizens from her church. They would take bus trips and different things. She loved to go. She loved to shop. She loved to deal. Her and Stoney would go every Tuesday, senior day, and get the discounts at all the places. They loved going to Burlington, and her daughter would go with them some. They both love Christmas. They love Christmas and decorating. They come on Christmas morning to see what my kids got for Christmas. All kids loved her house because it was like a Santa's workshop. She had the dancing Santas, the dancing bears. It was just lots of fun. And they loved kids. They loved kids to come. They loved people to come visit. They loved visiting. I was told that White Lake was one of her favorite places. I remember them having a camper. I remember going to Florida. It was her kids, me, my parents, and her and Stoney. And we went to Florida, drove to Florida in I call them cars a boat now, but like a Grand Marquis. And I don't even know how. That is a long trip.
That is a long trip.
It is. And so we did that. I remember there's pictures still of like Tony and me and Wanda sitting in the trunk eating. Just different little things like that. Her daughter says she was a loving, caring mom. Her daughter was in the hospital with different things, and she said she was always by my bedside. She didn't never falter. She was always there, and a great mom.
You have such wonderful memories of your Aunt Rosa Lee. She sounds just like a lovely person, and I've seen her photograph, and we'll put her picture up on the podcast as well. So she just, when you see her photo, she just looks like just a loving soul, and from the way you describe her, that just matches exactly the image that I had of her personality as well. So what prompted you a year ago to reach back out to us and check on the status of her case? What kind of spurred you on? Was it the 20th anniversary, or, was just something that was on your mind?
Yes, it was the 20th anniversary coming up, and I thought, well, that would be great to kind of find out before that, actually. So that was one of the reasons I reached out. I had ran into Tony at a meeting, and I said, "Do you mind if I asked them about this?" And
Tony is her son.
Yes, he's her son, and asked them about this and just see where we are on this, because a lot of the people that were on the case, they're now retired. There's only a couple left that were there, and so that's what prompted it. as a family, I think we all want closure of some sort.
Okay, so you were talking about closure, your family wanting to have closure with this case. So what does closure look like to you, and what would that mean for your family?
One of the questions that I've heard, they want to know why and who. We all have different things in our head. The reason for closure. I do know when it happened, me personally didn't want to come home at first. Something like that happened in your family to somebody that was so sweet and loved so many people. So it being so long, and knowing these people are still in the street is a concern. Knowing that if they're in your area and you go to the store and they're looking right at you, or they are waiting on you, and you're paying them for your stuff, is for the longest time you look around and go, I wonder if they're in here. I wonder if they're in here. So that's part of me. That's part of some of the others. The concern is they could hurt or kill someone else if they're still out. Justice has not been served, and I think as a family we all deserve that. New info would give us hope to find an answer. The case has been quiet for so long that some family members have given up hope. We do believe that justice not served here on earth will be served on Judgment Day at the gates of heaven. But it would be peace of mind just to know.
Well, and I think what you said too, where initially there was concern about just coming home, and if this is someone in our community, do they know us too, or is there something else that's going to happen? And has that ever really gone away for you and for your cousins or other members of your family, or is that something that you all still live with?
I can't speak for them, but I think it's faded, but it's always still in the back of your mind because Rougemont is so small. Bahama is so small. And the little towns that she used to go visit, damn, well, they're small. So I think it still stays in the back of your mind. And I know my dad really wanted to know, and he passed in 2020. All our siblings are gone. And I hate that none of them knew this. None of them, they all died without knowing what happened. He really wanted to know.
So is this something that you want to accomplish for your dad?
I would I would. Because he was very vocal, and I'm surprised he did not go harder. But none of us wanted to step on toes because we're not, even though she loved my kids like grandkids and she came on Christmas, we aren't close. We're the family, but not the family.
You're not her babies.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though she probably thought of you as her babies anyways. Yeah.
And so then when I reached out and I asked them, if you don't want this, we won't do this. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. But I can be a witch and like my dad. So I'm Christian, but I'm from the South Side. So can we go charge with this and see what happens? And so I'm really hoping when we get the answers back from the lab, something else will come to light.
Well, we really hope that too for you and for everybody in your family. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what's next with this case and kind of sum everything up. So stick with us, and we will be right back in just a moment.
I came to the Durham County Sheriff's Office in search of employment, and I wound up finding a career and a calling.
There's so many different divisions in the Sheriff's Office.
Welcome to the Durham County Detention Facility.
There's always something new and something different in this type of field here. You never know what to expect each day.
Come on and experience it for yourself. before you make your final judgment. This could be your career.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Star Talk, a podcast from the Durham County Sheriff's Office.
We need to do something. This is our next generation of future doctors and lawyers and nurses and police officers.
I hope you understand that the Durham County Sheriff's Office and I, as your sheriff, are committed to reaching our youth.
Animal control is underneath the sheriff's office, which I had no idea. I'm sure many in the community have no idea.
We detect and investigate and enforce violations of animal ordinances or state laws concerning domesticated animals. We investigate animal bites.
The folks who work on the street and serve in our communities from Bahama, Rougemont, Southwest Durham are ambassadors of the good work that we're doing serving the residents here in Durham County.
We have a $6,000 sign-on bonus, so I'm definitely not going to leave that out, right? And then some of our incentive pay for our base salaries, you're looking at, if you meet one of the extra criteria, 2.5%, 5%, 7%, up to 10% potentially.
Okay, thank you for coming back with us. Just as a reminder, this is the Durham County Sheriff's Office podcast. And today we are talking about a cold case. Ms. Rosa Lee Crabtree, who was found murdered in her home in Rougemont in November of 2005. And we're talking with Lieutenant Lindsay Hamlet, who is the current investigator on this case. Oh, I'm sorry, Detective Lindsay Hamlet. I promoted you there, didn't I? Lieutenant Tisha Jones, who is lieutenant in our Criminal Investigations Division, and Ms. Rosa Lee's niece, Tanya, who is so graceful to come in here and speak with us today about her beloved aunt. So now, fast forward to 2025, last year, when Tanya gave us a call before the 20th anniversary of her aunt's homicide came up. Detective Hamlet, what happened at that point with the case? What did you and our Criminal Investigation Division and our Forensics Unit do to start looking at this case again?
So I had the pleasure of speaking with Miss Tanya and making that connection from the beginning, and I could tell she was very passionate about wanting this case to be looked at and putting fresh eyes on it, and it had been so long. So long, in fact, that I was still in high school when this happened. So it had been some years, but we decided as a team, myself and Lieutenant Jones and another detective, that we were going to pull the case file and go through it all. Just trying to get an idea of what was done, maybe something that somebody hadn't seen before, something new, a new avenue that we could go down. And then, of course, pull in our forensics team as well to be able to pull the evidence and see what exactly it was that we had to work with or that we could look at. So we did. We pulled out boxes of things and a lot of evidence. And as a team, we went over everything and talked about what we thought would be able to be looked at again. So at that point, we actually scheduled a meeting with the State Crime Lab. They have multiple divisions there, broken down into specialties. And we went to the crime lab and took evidence with us and were able to go piece by piece and see what it is that they could look at. We were fortunate enough that there were multiple pieces that they thought still had evidentiary value left on these pieces, and that's when we started our process of getting submissions to the lab. So we were able to submit quite a few pieces that are currently still at the lab now that they are looking at to hopefully give us some new information.
we know that it can take quite some time to get these things back from the state crime lab due to a number of reasons, including that, the staff that they have just has an immeasurable number of cases that they're looking at, and there are some that are more urgent because they're happening now as opposed to something that has happened, unfortunately, 21 years ago doesn't always take priority. So as we wait for any information to come back from the state crime lab, are there things that we're doing now, or are we kind of in a holding position until all of that comes back?
So there are definitely some things that we are still able to do right now. Obviously, we're hoping that that's going to lead us in a more direct path to follow because things have advanced so much with technology. Something years ago that might have been tested that they would need a very large sample for, they need microscopic pieces now. So in the meantime, Tanya and I are in contact very regularly. I'd like to say we've become pretty good friends at this point, and when we talk to each other, we're just on a first name basis, and any information that she gets, she passes along. And I told her earlier that I've kept a file of all of our emails that we send back and forth and our communication with any information that she gives. And we're grateful for any new information and are definitely wanting to look into any new leads that possibly would come our way, any new names, any piece of information at all. We're looking into just anything that we're able to work on.
And that's part of, I think, why we're all here today too, to talk about this, to kind of use some additional modern technology through the podcast and through social media to kind of put some information out there and maybe reach some people that we haven't been able to reach in the past. We know that these kind of things are kind of popular now. So we're hopeful that there's somebody listening out there that might have a nugget of information that they'll call in or send us an email or throw up a smoke signal or somehow get in touch with us so that Detective Hamlet and our other investigators can kind of take a look at it and see what they can drill down into. So I think we're kind of coming to the point now where we're getting ready to wrap up. But we want to talk about a couple of other things in doing that. So in 2005, our sheriff here in Durham County was Sheriff Worth Hill, and he requested of the governor's office a governor's reward in this case, which is still active today. And I believe that was $5,000. So that is still active, and we want to remind people of that if they do have information that they could be eligible for this reward. And we are actually currently working on updating that reward in this case, and hopefully so that there'll be some additional funds available from the governor's office. We're in the process of working through that process now, and that'll take a little bit of time, but we'll update the community should that all come to fruition, and we're hopeful for that. So if you do have some information, and that might be a way to maybe encourage some people to come forward in this case. In that vein, if someone does have information, Lieutenant Jones, how do they get in contact with us, and what should they do?
If someone has information that they want to add or they think might be beneficial for us, they can contact us directly in CID by calling us 919-5 560-0880. That is the number to Investigations. We also have a crime tip email that they can send information to anonymously. And that is crimetip@durhamsheriff.org. And we will take each piece of information and add to it and investigate it and look into it. And hopefully it will be something that we can build from or, work from.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that information. Additionally, if people have information that they want to put out there and want to do so anonymously, they can reach out to Durham Crime Stoppers. Their phone number is 919-683-1200. And all tips there are also anonymous, and there is a separate reward system set up through Durham Crime Stoppers, and that varies depending upon the information and the outcome of the case. So there's a, and we'll put all of this information is available on our social media and on our website, and we'll put it out in the information that is attached to this podcast wherever you are listening. So we want to give Ms. Rosa Lee's niece the final word here about her aunt in this case and what it would mean to wrap up. So tell us, what do you think, what do you want to leave people with here today?
If you have lost a parent or a child, you understand this worse more than most. But when you lose them this kind of way, it's really hard, and to not have any kind of answers and know why. Closure. The questions that different ones in the family have said is who and why. If you know something, say something. Any little thing. If you know something, say something. Share this stuff that you hear, that you see. Maybe we could get another clue of sorts. On the night that she had come home from church, we as in my family and I, had went to Golden Crown. We always passed by her house. And we knew we needed to go see her because we hadn't talked to her in a while since her husband had passed. And when we passed her house, I was like, she's at church, but we need to go see her. So we come back through there, and we didn't stop that night because it was late. And I think that's probably the main thing in a lot of the family's things is woulda, coulda, shoulda. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. And, what we could have done different, how we could have changed the situation. So it would mean a lot to us as a family just to have closure. And I think over the years, you're sad, and in the beginning, you're more than sad. And I think now it's like, just give us some closure. Nobody's going to hurt you. We're not going to hurt you. But just to know, just to know something, because all her siblings dying and not knowing is awful.
It is awful. And, our continued sympathies here at the Durham County Sheriff's Office go out to your family. And if anyone out there has one of those woulda, coulda, shouldas and has information about this case and hasn't stepped forward, please give the Crabtree family this closure and step forward with whatever information you might have. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Star Talk. This has been our first episode looking at a DCSO cold case, but we'll be back at a later date to bring you another deep dive into our cold case files. And in the meantime, you can check out additional episodes of Star Talk here or anywhere you get to your podcasts. You can also visit us online at durhamsheriff.com, our social media, and check for updates on Sheriff's Office events and cases. Thank you so much, and we look forward to talking with you all next time.